Welcome members, welcome to the first annual council, welcome members of the public and welcome members of the press. This is the first annual council after the elections and therefore there's some important business to be done this evening. And I'm looking forward to have a very productive 4 years with our newly elected councillors to serve the council and of the Isles of Scilly and primarily our community, of course. The first item of the agenda is the election of your chairman. And can I please ask for nominations for chairman? Councillor Grottek.
Thank you. I would like to propose Councillor Molson as chair. We are all aware that at the moment the council has many challenges. I believe that Councillor Molson, by his personality, experience and commitment, has shown that he is best placed to lead us through those challenging times.
I'd like to second that proposal.
Thank you. Are there any further nominations? In that case, I would like to go to the vote. Can I see hands up, please, for those in favour? Clearly shown. Can I see, is it unanimous? Yeah. Can I see any abstentions? Any against? No, thank you, that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Can I invite Councillor Molson to come and do the declaration of acceptance in office?
I, Edward William Molson, having been elected to the office of Chairman of the Council of the Isles of Scilly, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability.
This declaration was made and signed before me, Theo Leijzer, the proper officer of the Council of the Isles of Scilly. Congratulations.
Election. I'll say a few things now.
Yeah.
Right. I'm now going to share a few personal thoughts with you. First of all, thank you, one and all, for the confidence that you've just shown in me by electing me as your chairman for the ensuing year. The next thing I would like to do is put on record my personal thanks and the thanks of the community and the previous council and this council to Amanda Martin for the sterling work that she has done in the past years. It would be very remiss of any of us not to think that she has done a good job. She's done a cracking job. We're at a crossroads. currently with government finance, legislation, huge issues. We've got a new council and many new councillors. We need to restore the community's faith and trust in the elected body and the officers of this community. It has been, as we all know, at a fairly low ebb of late. We need to push our communication to tell the community what good things are going on. And there are a lot of good things going on within this community that the council is responsible for. We have some very, very able people within this room, elected and non-elected. We need to restore completely the trust of the community within the elected body and the non-elected body. I am going to paraphrase John F. Kennedy. We need to get to a situation where our community, and I use the word ours very, very strongly, to ask what can we do rather than what can the council do for you. We have a strong community. It is one of the strongest communities within the whole of the United Kingdom. We need to keep and engender that community spirit and continue to push forward with the challenging times that are ahead. There are issues. We all know what they are. Elderly care, children, transport, tourism, waste, smart islands. They are all there. They will provide challenge. We need to advance in a consensual and collegiate form to solve these issues and put the correct solutions in place for the whole of the community. Once again, elected members, thank you for your trust, and we will move forward as a community. Right, the next item on the agenda is the election of a vice chairman. Have we any nominations, please? Councillor Nellams.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to nominate Councillor Mumford.
Second to me, Councillor Sims. Councillor Barclay.
Chairman, I would like to propose Councillor Grottick. Considering the very heavy financial duties of vice chairmanship, I feel she is eminently suited to that role.
Councillor Guy.
I'd like to second that, please.
We have two nominations. Are there any more? Are the two nominees prepared to accept those nominations?
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Would the nominees like to say anything? No? No. Dominic's going to leave the room. Oh, no. Right. In that case, we take a vote on it. The first nomination was Councillor Mumford. All in favour of Councillor Mumford, please. Show clearly. Thank you. Those for Councillor Grottick, please show clearly. That's 6 to 7. I therefore declare Councillor Grottick as Vice Chair of the Council for the ensuing year.
I, Frances Marion Grottick, having been elected to the office of Vice Chairman of the Council of the Isles of Scilly, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability.
This declaration was made and signed before me, Theo Leijzer, the proper officer of the Council of the Isles of Scilly. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you can take your seat. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. May I thank you all for your support, and I promise to work hard and support the Chairman and all of you to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Elected members, members of the public and the gallery, I would ask you all now to stand for prayers led by Canon Herringate.
Well, I'm afraid you don't elect me, you just have to put up with me. But I want to offer a little sonnet as a prayer for you today. I've been reflecting. Today we've had our May Day ceremonies outside. The church keeps Ascension Day all about ruling and governance and all those sorts of things, to which I need to go and do a service shortly, so my apologies. And we start our new council. So I've been reflecting on the nature of power and what it is to be ruling and our responsibilities. Let us pray. Today the church keeps her Ascension Day as Jesus rises to the realms above, and with him bears our clothes of flesh and clay from Eden's fall to glory in his love. Meanwhile in Scilly our own queen was crowned with royal robes bedecked with Maytime flowers, that we should all in peace and love abound, and serving others make God's glory ours. Thus, on this day of glad festivity, a chapter new of civic life we write, to learn that those who rule must servants be, and for the good of others all unite. God bless this council and our islands fair, and grant us all his servant's robe to wear. Amen.
Members, the next item on the agenda is the minutes of previous meetings. Now, we're in a slightly unusual situation where there are no previous chairmen to present these minutes. So with your approval, I intend to take the minutes en bloc, unless anybody has any objections. Can I have a proposer for all of those minutes, please?
I'd propose that.
Councillor Mumford. Councillor Sims. That are the minutes of the 6th of December, 26th of January, 7th of March, 4th of April, 18th of April, 28th of April, are now on record as a true and accurate record. Next is any declarations of interest. None. Moving on. Yes, we do need a vote to approve those or not? Yeah. Can I have a vote to approve those minutes? Sorry, my mistake. All those in favour? Against? They're confirmed. Declarations. Right, we now move on to item 6, to consider reports from committees, including receipt of the minutes, which we've done. There are no reports, so we move on to written questions to the chairman of committees not submitting reports in accordance with standing orders. We have no written questions.
I've had none.
No,
I've had none, Chairman.
And now we need to move on to consider motions in accordance with standing orders.
Again, I've
had none. As far as I'm
none.
aware, we have none. I have no urgent items. And as far as I'm aware, we have no members' updates. Correct? Right. Item 11 is confirmation of standing orders.
Double press. Thank you.
Good morning, members. Congratulations to the Chairman and the Vice Chairman on your elections. Just so that you are aware who I am, my name is Richard Williams. I'm the Service Director and Monitoring Officer for Cornwall Council. I'm also the Monitoring Officer appointed to the Isles of Scilly as well. I'd like to also introduce, on my left, is Matthew Stokes, colleague of mine, who you will hopefully get to know very well over the forthcoming months. I'm due to retire at the end of July, as some members know, and it would be my recommendation to you that Matt is appointed as your future monitoring officer. I just wanted to say just a couple of things in relation to, I suppose, items 11 through to 16, but particularly 11 through to 14. Before Matt takes you through the individual, makes some initial comments on each individual report. I think hopefully all existing members recall, and hopefully new members are aware, that to get to where we got to has been a bit of an iterative process already, and that members on the 18th of April of this year voted for a change in governance. What we have sought to do, working with your officers, is to ensure that you have a scheme of governance which is effective and able to take you forward today and allow you to operate as a lawful council and an effective council. We accept, and I think your officers accept, and you will have noticed if you've gone through and read in great detail all the pages of the reports that are to come, that there are some gaps, there are some things that's still to be done. And I would emphasise very much that this is a journey that continues, and you, for existing members, will recall that I have said quite clearly that I think, let's be aware that this wasn't a unanimous decision to move to new governance arrangements. There were some members here and some of the previous administration who felt that we should wait. But at the meeting of the 18th, there was a majority in favour of changing the governance process. But we accept that this will be an iterative journey, and one of the important things, I think, in terms of your new governance arrangements is that you are having monthly council meetings, which means that anything that needs changing, that needs tweaking in the light of experience moving forward, it's not as if this is set in tablets of stone for 6 months or a year or anything like that. You have the ability, and I would encourage you to have the ability, to change it, to make it suit you. And that's the other thing that I would say, is that a constitution, and these effectively constitutional documents, a constitution isn't something you must slavishly serve. The constitution should work to enable you to do the best for your community. And if it needs changing in any way, shape or form to reflect that and that aspiration, then please do change it. This is not precious. There is some stuff in here which reflects minimum legal requirements, but there's a lot that's discretionary. So please, as we go through, as the year progresses, please, if there are things that you feel don't work or need to be changed, please use this council, the Democratic Processes Panel, to take those things forward. So I think with those initial comments, Chairman, if it's all right if I pass on to Matt to take us through each of the individual items. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Richard. As Richard said, you've got monthly meetings which affords you the opportunity to revisit any of these items as you feel the need to. And of course, I'm very grateful for being given the opportunity to come out to such a nice place. I live near Redruth, and quite frankly, this is a beautiful place to be in comparison. So if I get the opportunity to come out and help you again with some of this work, I'll be absolutely delighted, and I will do my very best for you. So on the Standing Orders report, and with this report and the following two reports that I'm to present, if it's okay with you, Chairman and members, I'll try to be relatively brief in introducing the reports, and then defer to you for any questions you've got on anything in particular, and that might help us then focus on the issues that you really want to focus on. So with standing orders, you're required to have standing orders to help you regulate your business and the conduct of your business, including your council and committee meetings and what have you. I've worked with some of your officers in developing these, working from your previous standing orders, but trying to move them along a little bit give you some opportunities for efficiencies, add some certainty where we could. Tried to group them neatly into 5 different sections, which I hope has worked, and tried to cross-reference them as best we can. There are a couple of things that I need to draw to your attention. First of all, in the recommendation, there's reference to annexes. There is only one annex, and that is to be added to. So at the moment, what we've dropped into there are the responsibilities of full council, but once you've approved the responsibilities of all of your committees and subcommittees, those will be dropped into this document when it's published on your website and in hard copy, so that all members, public, can see how you regulate your business and who's responsible for what. In addition, on page 130 of the agenda, the provision that's gone in at paragraph 24.4 as to the appointment to the scrutiny committee, that I now understand isn't the intention, and the intention is perhaps to have 8 members of the scrutiny committee, so that's at odds with what appears later in the agenda. What I would suggest we do is simply remove that provision, because if you go for 8 members, that as it stands serves no useful purpose. I think, if I may, I'll leave it at that, but I'm very happy to try and answer any questions that members have.
Members, discussion on the standing orders, please. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got 2 points. In Standing Order 17, page 126, I believe in 2015, Council did vote to allow all members to attend all meetings, subject to those dealing with sensitive issues such as key worker panels and appeals panels. And I wonder if we could amend Standing Order 17 to actually reflect the situation that had been previously agreed during the last Council, which we could do either by asking the advice of the monitoring officer if we should perhaps look at the protocol that Cornwall County Council apparently worked to, or we could simply add at 17.3, a member may attend any committee meeting or subcommittee of the Council or any panel or groups within the Council, to sit in the public gallery and to be called to the chair, to be called to the table at the invitation of the chair, but to have no vote. That is, of course, if they don't sit on the committee in the first place. And obviously they're there.
Any comments?
It merely reinstates the notice of motion that Councillor Bilsborough and myself actually placed before Council a couple of years ago. And I think shows that we're moving, well, that we embraced a collegiate form of working where we have all signed the Nolan Code and we respected the right of colleagues to sit in the public gallery even though they hadn't been elected to that particular forum.
Councillor Mumford?
Is that not what it says anyway?
No, because it actually states in Standing Order 17, please, I would ask the Monitor Officer for confirmation, may attend any committee or subcommittee of the Council. It's really to clarify and firm that up. It doesn't actually state any working party or any working panel, and that could lead to confusion in the future. Mr. Williams.
Absolutely. I'm happy to confirm. I mean, if you wish to include those words to add further clarification, then that's absolutely fine. Certainly the intention of 17.3 is to include any working group or formal body of membership of the Council. Yeah, but if you want to reflect, obviously I wasn't aware of the previous motion, if you want to reflect that wording from the previous motion in 17.3, we can of course include it. That's not a problem.
Thank you.
Is that a proposal?
So I'd like to propose that we add panels and working groups. Would that be enough, Mr. Williams? So I make that as a proposal, please, Chairman.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Davis? Any further discussion on that? In that case, I will take it to a vote. All those in favour of amending it? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've got...
Yes. Yes, sorry, I'm quite prepared to wait. I don't wish to have 2 bites of the cherry before anyone else.
Carry on.
No. Right, then please, colleagues, could you turn to page 130? And this is a suggestion that I would value your input on. 24.4. All members of council, with the exception of the chairman of council, vice chairman of council and the lead member for children, will be appointed to the scrutiny committee, etc., etc. I just wonder whether any future lead members, it might be best to exclude any future lead members, or are we just considering the statutory provision of the lead member for children at this moment? I ask because my understanding is that the lead member for adults will soon become a statutory role, which is currently under consideration, so I believe from colleagues on the mainland, but the government haven't actually made it a statutory role. Nevertheless, it does have, as you probably appreciate, statutory provision with regard to, for example, safeguarding of adults.
Thank you, Chairman. I think what I would suggest to that, which may be a workable solution for you, is I said earlier that that provision is at odds with what follows later in the agenda in relation to the appointment of committees and appointments to committees, because I think the suggestion now is that there'll be 8 members on the scrutiny committee. And if that's the intention, if we take that provision out, without there being a prescribed composition of the committee, you can leave that open until you come to appoint to the committee, and then you can apply the principles that you see fit. So rather than be constrained by that, you can deal with who should be on the scrutiny committee when you come to make the appointments, and if you think it's appropriate not to have certain members on the committee, you can deal with that in making those appointments. So you give them more free rein to do that.
Would you like to express an opinion? We're happy to have your advice, I'm sure.
I think I would suggest to you that you simply delete paragraph 24.4 and you appoint to the scrutiny committee as you see fit from amongst the members and give yourself that flexibility.
In that case, thank you for your advice, and please, colleagues, may I make a proposal that we delete 24.4 from Standing Order 24 on page 130 of your papers.
Is there a seconder for that proposal?
Second that.
Seconded by Councillor Guy. Is there any further discussion on that? No? Have you got any more clarification before I take it to the vote for standing orders? In that case, with the 2 amendments, that is the amendment of 17.1, was it? 17.3 and the removal of 24.4. Can I have a proposal that we accept standing orders as they stand? Councillor Bennett, seconded by Councillor Nellams. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Just before agenda item 12, and if I perhaps just do a brief introduction on that, which is the scheme of delegation.
Yeah.
So I think it might be helpful to members because this is quite a significant change. So before, and historically this was the position, schemes of delegation used to list everything that officers were delegated to be able to do. And that was historically what we used to do. I remember from my days in local government when I first started, the problem is with doing that is that it's never up to date because the law changes on a daily basis that applies to local authorities, and effectively we had this mountainous document that nobody ever read, and we effectively employed somebody to try and keep this thing up to date, and it was almost impossible to do. So a few years ago, best practice for schemes of delegation to officers from councils changed to go the other way. So instead of saying officers could only do what is absolutely set out in this huge long document, it changed round to say officers can do generally what's in their service areas unless. So it flipped it round, and I accept that that might be a change for you and a sort of changing culture and approach. from what you've had previously. But I would strongly, as your monetary officer, commend that to you. I would make the point that in terms of officers, they have role profiles. They undertake jobs through their employment relationship with the council anyway. So this is really only, to a certain extent, reinforcing that. But I know there may be, I am aware in my own authority there's always a little bit of nervousness about the balance between officers and members, so I can understand a change like this might seem quite significant, but I really would commend it to you as an approach. And again, repeat the comments I made earlier. If you feel that at any point it doesn't work, then obviously that's available to change that. And I don't think that what is set out here is putting an unreasonable level of power or influence in the hands of officers. I think it's appropriate, and through the scrutiny procedures that I know are very important to you, clearly if you have concerns about decisions that are taken by officers or a general approach by officers, you can always hold them to account through scrutiny. I think that's the way to do it, rather than to have a lengthy document that tries to define everything that you feel that officers should be empowered or delegated to do.
Thank you, Mr. Stokes. Discussion on that? Councillor Guy?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. The recommendation is for members to approve the scheme of delegation. I'd like to bring your attention to page 153, 6.1. And I just find it a little excessive of the £500,000. I would like to reduce that to at least 100,000 to members. I don't feel we can accept the £500,000. I don't know what members' views are on that, but I feel that's too high.
Councillor Nelland?
I'd just like to ask Mr. Williams, is that a standard figure across the country? Is that something that's delegated to all chief officers, or is it just here?
Thank you. So in preparing this, those are figures that I've taken from elsewhere, but very much in the knowledge that and an acceptance that it's absolutely for you to set the parameters. And so
I don't want to give you for an instance, but it's a far too figure high for one person's delegated powers, in my opinion.
So for Cornwall Council, that figure may be too low, given some of the property transactions that Cornwall Council does. For your council, it may not be the right figure. What I would say is it's worth having the property delegations in there so that you can get some good, efficient and effective transaction of business done. But if you think the numbers are wrong, then it's entirely up to you to decide what those numbers should be. But with that, I would say that it's worthwhile also, over time, monitoring how that plays out in practice. And over time, so if you come up with a number now, so if you go with your £100,000 on a capital payment, I don't know whether you want to look at the rental as well, because that's at £100,000, so you might think that's high too. You might think over a period of time that actually you've still set the numbers a little bit too high and you want to reduce them further, or you might say actually no, with increases in property prices and what have you, and having seen that the scheme has been operated responsibly by officers, you might think it's worthwhile upping the limit. And that may vary over time, so it's entirely a matter for you, and it's not fixed in stone.
Councillor Francis?
Chairman, I concur with Councillor Guy, and I also feel that it is too high a sum to be looking at. And there's very few transactions on Scilly, and I think they should be brought before members. So I would agree with the level that Councillor Guy has suggested. Thank you.
Councillor Barclay?
Chairman, I too would agree. I feel that the community who are ever watchful of the council's procurement processes would really have something to say about a £500,000 payment which wasn't subject to the debate by members.
Is your light on? Councillor Sims?
Chair, on that I'd have to defer to your officers. I'm afraid I haven't got it immediately to mind.
What's the previous figure for this? Because I just remember the sale of 5 Sallythorne, that bounced around the committee one more time, and that's approval. That was substantially smaller amount than 500,000.
I can't recall the exact figure or limit that was put in the previous scheme of delegation, but my colleague will identify the figure. But in terms of the way it's been operated, it's very similar to the previous scheme. So it's operated that the either receipt or expenditure needs to be within the capital budget, which of course is approved by members on a regular basis, and needs to be in compliant with the asset strategy, again, that members have approved.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you. Can I just ask the monitoring officers what the process is for changing the conditions in the document and how often that can be done, please?
Just make a proposal.
Effectively, although I wouldn't necessarily advocate it, you could do it monthly. Or at least as often as you have council meetings. You may want to think about any changes to any important constitutional documents, such as this, going through your democratic processes panel for recommendations to come forward to council. But you do have regular opportunity to change, should you wish. Claire, is it okay if I just make a general point as well whilst I'm speaking? I think in relation to all of the delegations, whether they be the property ones or otherwise, it's important to note too that there are control measures in here, and officers exercising the delegations are required to operate within the budget, within the policy, have regard to member decisions that are relevant, have liaison with appropriate members, so that might be chairman and vice chairman of committees, and also to comply with your financial regulations. So there are lots of control measures in there, and there's more than one opportunity within this document for members to say, actually, we know you might be thinking about making a delegated decision on a particular item, but we want that before us, please, to make the decision. So there's appropriate safety mechanisms in there, and as Richard said, you've also got the safety net of being able to scrutinise officer decisions that are made under this scheme of delegation to learn lessons for the future, whether that may be in relation to the scheme of delegation as it stands, or in terms of amending it and bringing it back for further review.
Did we get a previous figure or not from Andy? No. Well, we have a suggestion at the moment that the figure and the scheme of delegation is reduced to £100,000. That is not yet a proposal, Councillor Guy. Would you wish to turn it to a proposal?
I would like to propose 100,000, yeah.
Do we have a seconder?
I'm happy to second that, Mr. Chairman.
Right. Any further debate? With the amendment then that the on that proposal alone, that is altered to £100,000. Can I have a show all in favour, please? I think that's unanimous, so we don't have to ask against. Right. I then, therefore, unless there's any further discussion on the scheme of delegation at all...
Chairman, sorry, 432 talks about writing off debts. Am I right in thinking there was a previous limit on the debts that had to be brought to council to be written off, or was that something that happened?
Sorry, what page are you on?
So 432, which is page 151.
I've got it. Yeah.
Sorry. At the moment, all debts come to the full council for write-off. So if at any point we come to the decision that a debt can't be collected, we bring it to council and it goes for write-off at the end of the financial year. It's an area we need to improve, and that's something that came out in the audit report last year, and it's an area that we're working on with our Section 151 officer, how we talk about some of our aged and long-standing debts. But what I would say is we very rarely have large debts in comparison to somewhere like Cornwall Council, who would probably have multi-million pound debts. Our debts are usually in the, I think, are usually in the £5,000 or £6,000 range. Our largest debts that we're unable to collect. But at the moment, we bring them all to full council. Oops.
Would members feel comfortable with putting a limit on that, or are members happy to delegate that?
Can I?
Sorry.
I think the solution to this perhaps lies in the review of your financial regulations. And if your financial regulations currently provide that write-off of debts comes to members for determination, then that authority doesn't then extend to officers at the current time, because it does say to write off in accordance with the financial regulations. What I'd suggest you do is leave it in as it is, but on the understanding that until financial regulations are changed to give officers a limit of authority to write off debts, they won't be doing that. So when your financial regulations come before you, make sure it's captured in there, because that's the place for it to be, and then any write-off of debts that's undertaken under that authority has to be in accordance with the limits of authority that are in your financial regulations. Is that okay?
Are there any more comments? Right, in that case, the recommendation is that members approve the scheme of delegation. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Mumford.
I propose that members approve the scheme of
Councillor
delegation.
Sims. All those in favour? Again, that's unanimous. Thank you. Item 13 is confirmation of committees and subcommittees and the terms of reference.
Thank you, Chair.
Mr Stokes.
So again, worked with your officers in relation to this item. There are a couple of things to say, which are that on page 164, at paragraph S32, we've got a quorum of 6 members, whereas in the standing orders that you've just been through, 5 members, whereas in the standing orders that you've been through, that's 6. So that needs to be corrected to 6 to fall in line with standing orders. There are some terms of reference that are yet to be presented and aren't included within the appendix to the report, and I'll come back to that in a minute. And also, I would say that in relation to the appointment of elected members to these committees, that the names that are within the appendix to the report are disregarded in terms of your approval of this item, assuming that you approve it, and you deal with the appointment of the elected members to these committees under agenda item 14. Having said all of that, I think it's appropriate that I recommend to you that the recommendation is changed from 1 to 2 recommendations, and that the first recommendation is to confirm the appointment of the committees and subcommittees listed at page 161 of the agenda, so deciding that you will have those committees and subcommittees, and that the second recommendation is then that members confirm the terms of reference for each committee as presented to the meeting, and the terms of reference of those not presented to this meeting are brought to a future full council meeting for approval. Happy to take questions, Chair.
Just one comment that I would continue for the rest of the members is that the detailed terms of reference will be discussed within the DPP at a very early opportunity after this meeting. So there are details that we are aware that are not there yet, but they will be put in place as soon as possible. Right, Councillor Guy.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just I'm sure it's a typo, but on page 174, 7.1, the standalone IFCA committee, you've put consists of 9 members, and then below it you've put 3 council members, 4 general members, and 1 Natural England, and it is 8.
Yeah, typo noted. Any other comments? Councillor Grottig.
Thank you. Just a quick clarification of page 161. The partnership bodies consist at 5 and 6 of the Health and Wellbeing Board and the Children's Partnership, but there are also going to be partnership bodies with regard to adult care and adult welfare and services, and I don't actually see those listed. Perhaps somebody could clarify that. Mr. Lyson.
Let me clarify that. Currently, the Health and Wellbeing Board clearly is a partnership body, which is a statutory requirement, so that is clear. In terms of the new governance arrangements, the decision was taken to create the Children's Partnership Board as a separate body moving forward. The proposals for a adult partnership or adult safety board has not been quite worked up in detail to put in front of members to determine. And I would advise and recommend that this will be an area for the DPP to pick up as soon as possible.
Yes, thank you. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Right. Mr. Williams.
Yeah. It's just really one to reflect on, I think, in going through these. One of the things the officers did have a conversation around was on page 196. It sets out the Democratic Processes Panel membership. And historically, I think I might understand this, that all of you are going to be part of the Democratic Electorate. All I would say, it's somewhat unusual to have a panel of the Council that is the Council. And I think in terms of the earlier comments we made about sort of being fleet of foot, if all of your recommendations, which in terms of democratic or governance changes, are going to go to the Democratic Process Panel, then on to full council, some of the fleet of foot and that we talked about earlier are potentially offset by that. Because if you've got monthly council meetings, you're going to struggle to get the whole of the council together in between to meet the Democratic Processes Panel. So I just think it's something to reflect upon, maybe not today, but to actually reflect upon whether that should be a smaller number of people that can come together, do work on behalf of the council, looking at some of this. Obviously, they haven't got delegated powers. The panel can't take decisions without coming back through council. But I just think it's something you ought to perhaps have a little bit of reflection on as to whether all members should be part of the Democratic Processes Panel.
Councillor Sims.
I only make the point, I don't necessarily, but what you inevitably will get is exactly that, but you're going to get different members. And I think the experience that I've had fed back to me of the Democratic Process Panel is people have complained about things coming to full council because they say, well, I didn't get to that meeting of the Democratic Processes Panel. And I think if you're going to have 16 people on a panel, you are going to struggle to get them to get to all the panel, and you're going to get this almost ridiculous situation, potentially, of a report coming from the Democratic Process Panel to the Council, and somebody in the Council saying, well, I'm a member of the Democratic Process Panel, and I couldn't get to the last meeting of the panel. So, it's fine now, but I just think it's perhaps, it may be something that you just need to have a bit of reflection upon.
As a comment from the Chair, I take on exactly what you're saying, Mr. Williams, and I think the first meeting of the Democratic Processes Panel will take that on board. I don't think we can amend the numbers as we stand here at the moment. However, I think that is something that in the immediate future will be addressed. Okay. Any more comments? Councillor Mumford? Oh, sorry. Councillor Williams.
We're sharing. Chairman, page 192 refers to the lead member for community safety as being a member of the Community Safety Partnership, but I don't think that post is then translated into subsequent reports where we're looking to allocate roles, so it's just something to be mindful of, whether we do want to remember that we might want a lead member for community safety at some point.
Again, I think that is going to be a detail that's got to be worked up yet. Yep. Right, any more comments? In that case, we have a recommendation from Mr. Williams, Mr. Williams, that we have actually two recommendations. The first one is to actually appoint the committees, and then the second one is that members confirm the terms of reference for each of the committees.
Correct, and also that any that are missing are brought back to a future meeting. So
and any that are missing are brought back to a future meeting. So in effect, we've got three slightly separate bits there. Can I have a proposer? And we take all three at once? Councillor Sims. Councillor Mumford proposed. Councillor Sims seconded. All those in favour? That's unanimous again. Right, the next item on the agenda is appointment to committees, subcommittees and lead member roles. At this point, I am going to exercise the Chair's executive power and slightly alter the agenda. I have had consultation with the Chief Executive and a number of members. I'm sorry if I didn't get to every member. However, I have taken a decision that I think it is important that we actually appoint tonight lead members for children, adults and place before we start appointing to the rest of the committees. If we start appointing to the rest of the committees, it becomes a chicken and egg, cart and horse situation that somebody who might be a lead member might not be on that committee. Therefore, I will take the first one, is that I would like to hear nomination for a lead member for children, please. Councillor Grottick.
I would like to propose Councillor Williams for the lead member for children. As members may well appreciate, he has experience in this field, and so I would put forward his name for your consideration.
We have a seconder, Councillor Sims. Are there any other nominations? All those in favour? You can vote for yourself. Are there any abstentions, Councillor Williams? In that case, it was unanimous. Councillor Williams, lead member for children. The second position I'm asking nominations for is lead member for adult care. Councillor Guy.
I'd like to propose Adrian Davis.
Seconded by Councillor Bennett. Are there any other nominations?
I'd like to propose Councillor Mumford.
Second. Would either members, sorry, first of all, would both members wish to accept those nominations?
Yes, Chairman.
Davis? Yeah, and Councillor Mumford?
Yes, Chairman.
Yeah. Would you like to say anything?
No, thank you.
Councillor Davis? Would you like to say anything?
No, that's, I'm fine.
Thank you. Right. In that case, the first nomination was for Councillor Davis. All those in favour of Councillor Davis, show clearly, please. Right, thank you. All those in favour of Councillor Mumford? We have a tied vote. Thank you. Very difficult situation for me. Very difficult indeed. I am really very torn 50-50 between the two excellent candidates that we've got. However, I have to come to a decision. And I think the decision that I'm going to come to is Councillor Davis, only on the grounds of Councillor Davis has been involved for so long with the medical care of the community. It was a very, very marginal decision. Councillor Davis, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the support that I have in this council. You all know I worked for a long time with the elderly and the frail and adults in this community. I do feel I do have experience, and I shall certainly do my very best to serve this community, continue to serve this community as I have done for several years in another capacity.
Thank you.
I don't know whether it's appropriate at this juncture to talk about the role that Christine Saville carried out very well for us in the previous council, which was to lead on the Sustainable Transformation Plan, which, as colleagues may know, is the health and integration plan that is going to take the country hopefully forward in the future. I do believe, because it's so pivotal to the delivery of adult services, that it would seem a good fit and sensible to me that this role is twinned with the lead member for adult role. I do think it will be quite a commitment, and I have thought carefully about this, but I believe that there is a lot of overlap, and that in order to do the lead member for adult role properly, you do have to have a very good knowledge and work with the Sustainable Transformation Plan. Therefore, it would seem eminently sensible to me that this role is twinned. And so, obviously, there may be ongoing debate, but I would like to propose at this juncture that the Council's representation with respect to not the scrutiny role, which obviously is another role, but the lead role on this Sustainable Transformation Plan is twinned with the lead member for adult role, and I would like to make that a proposal.
Councillor Mumford.
I believe this role is usually the chairman of the Health and Wellbeing Board.
It was in the past, Councillor Mumford, but I believe it was just because it sort of happened. There was no, so far as I understand, statutory provision. In fact, at the start of the consultation, I myself sat on the panel and started the engagement process going, because at the time I was currently Chair of Community Services. I deferred to a very experienced colleague that I was very happy for Councillor Saville to take the role on, but at the time, I don't believe it was a provision as such.
Just from the chair, I just wonder whether it is actually appropriate that we actually twin roles at the moment and not put them forward to the DPP. I think the DPP is the right forum to discuss this as opposed to the full council now.
I'm happy to defer, Chair.
Are you happy?
Absolutely.
Right. Councillor Sim, do you want to make a comment? I think we need to defer that decision to the DPP, and Councillor Grottig is happy to defer that. Are you okay?
Yes, indeed. That was merely a suggestion, colleagues.
Okay, thank you. The third position that I would like to take nominations for is lead member for place.
Chairman, I'd like to propose Councillor Francis.
I'd like to second.
Councillor Berkeley, yes?
Seconded.
We have a proposer and a seconder. Are there any other nominations?
I'd like to propose Councillor Sims.
I'll second that nomination.
We have a seconder. Are there any other nominations?
Members for their support. I think it's important for us to make a fresh start. Our community has voted for change, and I think it's important for us to review what we are currently looking at as a council and make sure we are in tune with what the community requires, and I will do my very best to bring that about and to serve the council in this role. Thank you.
Right, we now move on. Thank you very much. We now move on to the other appointments that are listed. The first one that we come to is lead member for Children's Services. Oh, sorry, which we've done. Apologies. I missed that one. The next one on the list is the Scrutiny Committee. We need 8 members for the Scrutiny Committee. Obviously, that's not Chair and Vice Chair. May I have some suggestions of names, please?
Do we have to propose people, or can we just put our hands up if we're interested?
I suggest that we put hands up if interested.
Chairman, I'd like to nominate Councillor Watt, who is on holiday.
As well. Right. If we have more than 8, we will have to nominate.
Could I just make a point quickly? I think when we discussed this in DPP, and I think we have discussed it even in the council, the notion was that the scrutiny panel should not have any lead members on it.
Sorry, I missed that.
The scrutiny panel was not meant to have any lead members on it, which seems eminently sensible given the nature of the scrutiny panel. Other members can concur with that, but it seems a rational way.
Yeah, that's right.
That's it.
Could I just ask a question, please? If you sit on scrutiny, can you sit on health and well-being? Right, thank you.
So as far as I understand, Mr. Williams, is that correct?
We're not aware of anything that prevents that, no.
Perhaps I can just clarify what I said. When I'm talking about lead members, I'm talking about place, adults and children. I'm not talking about, i.e. champions.
And Chair and Vice Chair as well.
Well, yes,
So
I'm talking about those 5 roles.
Those 5 roles.
Fine.
Right. In that case, if there's more than 8, we'll have to go for nominations.
Shall we put our hands up again?
Please.
And keep them up a sec.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, there's 9 there, so yes, we're going to have to go for nominations. Sorry?
And then Steve, what goes with that 8?
No, there's 9 around the table here.
Excuse me. Sorry. May I make a suggestion that we increase the Scrutiny Committee to 9, or isn't that possible?
Yeah.
It's our decision. Is that okay, Mr. Williams?
You've just approved one of 8, of course, in your standing orders, but I mean, it's a matter for you.
May we amend it?
Do we have to suspend standing orders for that?
It just seems...
Yeah, but standing orders are standing orders.
Just agreed. I'm not aware of it was conflicted with standing orders at that point. We have done this in the past, and I don't think it's an insignificant issue. It depends if someone wants to kick off that.
Are you happy with that, Mr. Williams? Okay.
I think 8's plenty. I think 8 is plenty.
Because you've just taken 24.4 out, which gives them number. You took the decision to remove 24.4.
Yeah.
I counted 9.
I counted 9. And Steve, what makes 10?
Chairman?
Yeah.
I think the need to, if you want to appoint 9, at the moment that is in conflict with the 8, but of course, going back to my earlier point, I don't think the Scrutiny Committee is going to meet before June meeting, so you can change your standing order at the next meeting to reflect the fact that 9 people have been nominated.
Right, in the interim then, before we change the number at the next scrutiny committee by due process, we can interim appoint 9 members, yes?
Use the microphone.
What I would suggest you do is appoint the 9 members to the Scrutiny Committee, subject to the amendment of the corresponding provision in standing orders at the next meeting. Fine. So it's not then an interim appointment, it is done, but subject to that caveat. And when that happens, it all falls into place.
Thank you, Mr. Soap. Subject to the amendment of the standing orders, we will appoint those 9 members and Steve Watt, if the members are happy to.
I stood down, which made it 9, including Steve Watt.
Fair enough. Okay. Can those members that were interested show their hands again, please, so that they can be recorded? Have you got them? Okay. Right. Yeah, can you propose that?
I'd like to make a proposal then that the 9 members as listed are members of the scrutiny committee pending the amendment to standing orders at the next full council.
Have we got a seconder for that? Councillor Mumford, second. Okay. Thank you. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Right. Thank you. Right. The next appointment is for IFCA. Councillor Sims.
I'd like to second Councillor Guy.
All right. Councillor Bennett.
I'd like to propose Councillor Legg.
Councillor Legg, yes. Seconded by Councillor Sims.
And I would...
I'd like to propose, yes, I'll second Steve Watt.
Yes, sorry, I didn't hear. Did anyone propose Steve Watt?
Yes.
Can also clarify whether this includes a chair and a vice chair role? No.
Right, we have 3 nominations. Are there any more? Right, in that case. We need to take that to a vote. All those in favour of the 3 nominated? Thank you. Against? Abstentions? Thank you. There's only got that. There's only got those. Right.
Next one goes to DPP.
Sorry.
This one goes to DPP.
So these right. The next several, that is Children's Partnership, Corporate Parenting, Safeguarding Adults Board, IOS City Safeguarding Local Children's Board Executive, and the Local Safeguarding Adults Board. Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Are all going to go to the DPP for clarification and appointment at subsequent dates. Yeah?
Yep.
Don't need a proposal for that. Right. We have the next one, and whether you like it or not, it's the DPP, that everybody's on it for now. We have had talk about it at the moment, and it could well get amended at the first meeting of the DPP. But congratulations, everybody. The next one is the Homelessness Review Panel. It's a statutory duty, is this one, and we need 6 members to comply.
Do we put the hands up again?
Indeed, I think that's an eminent way forward.
I've been on it before, so I'll go on it again. That's well done, Ewan. 4. 2 more. 5. Come on, Steve.
6.
Dan's gone.
We have 6. Are there any more? That's Councillor Marcus, Councillor Guy, Councillor Mumford, Councillor Nellams,
and
Councillor Grottig. Oh, sorry, Councillor Roger. Are there any more nominations? No? All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Thank you.
I better tick what I'm on here.
Right. We now go on to SACRA. Standing Advisory Council on Religious Education. 2 councillors need nominating for this one.
Ashley, Chairman.
I promised Christine Saville that I would put up for it.
Right.
I will propose...
So I shall have to do it.
I will propose Councillor Mumford.
Thank you.
We have a seconder in Councillor Sims. We need a second. Councillor Bennett?
Yes, I'll propose Councillor Barclay. No? Oh, sorry.
I called him.
We don't need to.
We don't.
Chairman, I'd like to propose Steve Watt as a second one.
I second that.
I think that would be very cruel in his absence, Councillor Guy.
You can't, you don't know the access.
You don't know whether he's going to accept. You don't know whether he's going to accept that in his absence.
Just need to be a member.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
One member and one officer is fine.
We only need one member and one officer, but we only need legally one. So I'm not going to accept that nomination, especially in his absence. Okay? And those are the actual total sum of the appointments for that section. We're now on to... Oh, sorry. Take that nomination of Councillor Mumford that's been seconded. Can I have a vote on that, please? All those in favour? That includes you, Councillor Mumford, thank you. All those against? That was unanimous. Health and wellbeing.
Yeah, that's still in this section. Oh, sorry, carry on.
Right, we're on to this one. We're on to the appointment of outside bodies now. And the first one that we come to is the Local Nature Partnership. Looking for nominations, please.
I'd like to propose Councillor Smith.
Councillor Smith, happy with that? Can we have a seconder?
I second that.
Councillor Marcus. Any more nominations? All those in favour? Unanimous, there's none against. Cornwall Rural Community Council on the Board of Trustees. This isn't actually a statutory appointment and we don't have to appoint to it. I'll come to it in just a moment. However, if it's your wish to nominate somebody, I'm more than happy to do so. Councillor Grottick first and then I'll come to you in a moment.
I'd like to propose Councillor Barclay. I've done a little bit of research into this. I fully admit I don't know enough about it, but I have been told that it is an important body and I feel it important that we have representation on it, and so I propose Councillor Barclay.
Councillor Smith? Did I see another light on up there? Was it?
I was about to propose.
No, sorry, the sunshine. It's very difficult to see them. We have a nomination of Councillor Barclay, and I do apologise for using your previous name. Any more nominations? Those in favour? That's unanimous. The National Association of Areas of Outstanding Natural Beauty. We are probably a premier area of outstanding national beauty throughout the whole of the British Isles and recognised as such. And as a consequence, I personally think this is quite an important role. I'm looking for nominations, please.
Chairman, may I ask whether this has to be an elected member?
I'm not sure. I have to take advice on that.
Chairman, I would have no idea, actually, to be quite honest.
Because I would like to nominate Johan Hicks from St Agnes, who has always played a very active role in the AONB world, and I think he has attended at his own expense events by the National Association and represented us well.
And have you spoken to Mr Hicks whether he'd be interested in the role on behalf of the council?
He would.
Right. We have a proposal. Sorry.
I think what you should do is perhaps if you're going to do that, make it subject to checking whether for that body that's a permissible nomination.
Yeah. Okay, subject to the checks in place that he is a permissible nomination. We have a proposal from Councillor Barclay. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Davies, Councillor Nellams. We've got plenty. Do you want to speak, Councillor Nellams, or was that? That was to second it, was it? Fine. Are there any other nominations?
Can I just ask Councillor Nellams, who I believe was interested in this post, if he still wishes for a nomination, or is he comfortable to continue?
No, very happy.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, we have a nomination of Mr. Hicks. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? That was unanimous. Isles of Scilly, Area of Outstanding Natural Beauty, Joint... Sorry. Joint Advisory Committee, it says here. Isles of Scilly AOMB Partnership, sorry. Obviously a typo. Nominations for 2, please. Councillor Barclay.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Smith because of his experience with the environment, really. And I think he would serve the islands well on that committee.
Yes, I'll second that. Can I nominate someone else as well?
Yes.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Nellams, please.
Councillor Doreen Smith.
Chairman, I was only going to say that I sit on that partnership in any case, so I could always wear 2 hats, not for the first time.
Second, Councillor Nellams.
It looks like we could have 3 representatives there. Are there any more nominations? We have the 2 nominated. All those in favour? Sorry, do you... Against? There's two positions. Yeah. It's just 2. Yeah. South West Regional Flood and Coastline Committee. In the past I was part of this. There is a lot of reading to do. However, we have overcome part of the problem on this one as far as meetings are concerned, because we do it by telephone link now, which is very helpful and useful. Looking for nominations, Councillor Sims.
Well, I was just going to say, it's previously the portfolio role of the chair of capital purposes and then chair of tele.
Yeah.
I don't see any particular reason why it should be portfolio role.
Nice. Right. Is that a proposition?
Yes, it is. And it's endlessly exciting.
I'd support that, Chairman.
Right. We have a proposition. All those in favour of encompassing that within the portfolio of place, show clearly, please. Against? Congratulations, Robert. Devon and Cornwall Police and Crime Panel. Right. Councillor Grottick.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Nellams for this role, please. And I understand that in the past, I don't know whether it's appropriate to mention at this point, the lead member for community safety has been the lead member for the Devon and Cornwall Police and Crime Panel.
It was me last time.
Yeah. And there's a certain symmetry again between these 2 roles, which I believe, I don't know whether it's appropriate to say, but is welcomed by the police colleagues.
They have, Mike, they have quarterly meetings, plus throw 1 or 2 others in, because I was this representative in previous guys, and they're usually in Plymouth.
Well, I'm happy to...
Okay, just for clarification, that was all. Councillor Mumford?
I'd like to second that.
Okay, any other nominations? All those in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Isles of Scilly Museum Trust. Apparently this does not have to be a councillor. They haven't to me, but they might have done. Oh, just a minute, I've just been told that Councillor Watt has expressed an interest in that.
I'd like to propose Councillor Watt.
In his absence, subject to him accepting it when he comes back.
Yeah,
Fine. Councillor Barclay seconds. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Thank you. The next one is the Edward MacDonald Trust. This doesn't have to be a councillor. However, traditionally we have had councillors on this, and I understand that there is a reasonable amount of money that is in that pot that needs administering. Right. Have we got any expressions of interest on the floor? Councillor Guy?
I was going to say, Chairman, as it states it doesn't have to be a councillor, I would like to propose Margaret Davis.
Councillor Davis, is that acceptable to Margaret? Or?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, certainly, yes.
Okay, is there a second of a councillor?
Yes, sir.
For Margaret Davis, right, that's... Any more nominations? Okay.
I've served on this trust for 4 years and we are in the middle of a piece of work, and I would very much like, if with colleagues' support, to actually stay and finish the piece of work that I'm currently engaged in. So over to you, colleagues. I've also discussed with Councillor Williams the fact that he might join the trust, and subject to his other commitments, if he's still willing to be nominated, I'd like to nominate Councillor Williams.
We have a nomination for Councillor Williams. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Guy, and can I possibly ask for a nomination for Councillor Grottick, please?
Nominate Councillor Grottick.
Seconder?
Seconded.
Councillor Legg? We have 3 nominations, therefore. Are there any more? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Courtnall Partnership NHS Foundation Trust Governor for the Isles of Scilly. With the Sustainable Transformation Plan and everything else that's going on within the NHS at the moment, this is going to provide a pivotal communications link between the Trust and the local community. There is a large amount of work, as we all are aware of, going on with this at the moment, and I would therefore ask for proposals, please. Councillor Bennett?
I propose Councillor Mumford.
Councillor Mumford? Seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Nellams. Any other candidates? All those in favour? Thank you. Pilot's Widow Fund. As we're aware, this does not have to be a councillor. Is there any interest within the elected members?
I mean, are there existing members on it? Will you appoint? Are exactly these 3 vacancies currently? I have no idea at all.
Who is on that at the moment?
Can I have clarification from Andy Thomas, because I have served on that for the last 2 years that I know of.
I do not know. Can we postpone this to the next meeting of council and give me a bit of time to have a look into it?
I mean, just for the record, Chair, they meet once a year.
Yeah.
So,
are you happy to wait until the next meeting with that one? Yeah, well, we'll defer that one. The Richard Addison's Trust. Councillor Grottick?
Thank you. In the past, this role has been fulfilled by the Chair of Council, so with his approval, I would like to recommend the Chair of Council to continue this role.
I'm happy to do so if you wish.
I'll second that.
In favour? Thank you.
I just say that I do sit on that from the public.
Right.
So, and we do have a meeting on the 6th of June.
Right.
Put it in your diary.
6th of June. Right. Medical Travel Transport Group. We have to provide 1 member. Councillor Grottick?
May I just suggest, at the moment, there seems to be rather an interest in off-island travel and the difficulties that off-islanders particularly are experiencing with medical travel, might I suggest that one of our off-island colleagues might feel committed to this role? I think it might be useful.
I'd like to propose Councillor Legg, if he just gives me the nod. Thank you.
Seconded.
Second that.
Are you seconding? Seconded by Councillor Smith. All those in favour? Congratulations. STP subcommittee. This is an observer role. As we're all aware, the STP is a massive piece of work that's going on nationally at the moment. It's supposed to be coming to a conclusion before too long. However, as with anything within the NHS, it tends to drag on a bit. But the observer role is a communicative role as far as we're all concerned, and health being close to our hearts, we need somebody on that to inform us what's going on. Can I have nominations, please?
There's never a was that you sit there and watch, or you need to talk to the camera. I'm just curious.
I'm actually on that at the moment. You can talk, but you can't vote. But what we can do is we can come back and report to our scrutiny committee. Now, normally we used to report to ASK. It doesn't interfere with me being on the Cornwall Park NHS Foundation. Doesn't interfere with that.
I see no problem at all with that.
No, right. Yeah, I'm quite willing to stay on that.
Seconder? Councillor Marcus. All those in favour? Thank you. Ireland Futures Board is me. I see no reason why not. Well, that's what it basically says there, but if you want to formalise that, that's not a problem. Okay, do you want to take a vote on that or not? To formalise it? Right, propose it then.
I propose that it becomes a portfolio role for the chair.
Seconder. Councillor Dorian Smith. All those in favour? Thank you. Smart Islands Partnership. This one was previously the lead member for Smart Islands, which we haven't appointed yet. I would suggest that we don't appoint that one until such time as we do appoint the Smart Islands lead.
Chairman, I was going to suggest maybe that it should be part of the portfolio of the lead member for place, because it links closely to those. It's quite a large portfolio, that, but it does link mainly to those activities. But I don't know if anybody else supports that.
I think it should be separate. It's quite a big issue, and I don't see any reason why the lead member of place couldn't go on to the board, but I think there should be a lead member for Smart Islands. Having done it for quite a long time, there's quite a lot to it.
Okay, Councillor Guy?
Yeah, personally speaking, Chairman, I would like to see that as a separate role. I think it's a very important role and it should be separate.
Councillor Bennett?
I would support that.
So,
And if you were going to take nominations now, I'd like to make one.
well, we haven't got a lead member for Smart Islands yet, so my suggestion from the chair is that we defer that until such time as we appoint one.
Why are we appointing a lead member for Smart Islands?
Sorry?
Why aren't we appointing a lead member for Smart Islands now?
We're not. That's why I'm suggesting we defer it. Sorry?
Why not? I think we're all confused. I'm not sure why not.
Surely, Chair, we can nominate a person now for when the role becomes available.
If you wish, that's...
Yeah. I would say that's the way forward.
Okay. Have we got nominations?
I would like to nominate Councillor Jonathan Smith. He's been the chairman of Transition Scilly since 2008. He's been chairman of ISREC for 4 or 5 years, and I feel he's eminently qualified to lead us in this very important area.
I second that.
Have a seconder?
I would like to nominate Councillor Sims.
I will second that.
We'll have a seconder. Are there any more nominations? Right, the first one was Councillor Smith. All those in favour of Councillor Smith show clearly, please. Six. Thank you. All those in favour of Councillor Sims?
6, 7. Yeah.
6, 7. Yeah, 6, 7. Councillor Sims.
I made it 7, 7.
Yes.
Sorry, can we take that again then? Just a minute.
Does he understand he can vote for him?
Can I just clarify, can you vote for yourself?
Yes.
Yes.
Right, we'll take the vote again, please, because there was some confusion. All those in favour of Councillor Smith? That's 7. Yeah. All those in favour of Councillor Sims? Here we go again. I think we've got a new council. The public have voted for change and a new set of eyes. Therefore, I am going to support Councillor Smith.
Just previously we had a deputy smart mind event, which I found very useful.
Right, can we not take that on to the next council meeting for the DPP to put forward? Yeah. Okay. Right, that concludes those nominations.
There's one missed off. Health and Wellbeing.
All right, there's one missed off apparently, which is the Health and Wellbeing Board, which we need. Oh, sorry, there's 2. What about that one?
Oh, sorry, this one.
What about Community Safety Partnership? Right.
This one.
Yeah.
We haven't done this one.
Oh,
This one we did do extending.
right. Right, the Health and Wellbeing Board is the one that has actually been missed off. Apparently we need 4 members. Apparently in previous guises, the lead member for children, adults and the chair of council and the vice chair of council have been members of the Health and Wellbeing Board. Is it your wish that that remains, or is it your wish that we nominate others? Discussion, please.
Chairman, I think those 4 would be an excellent choice, but I'm also mindful of what the Chief Executive was talking about the other evening when he said about the importance of aligning smart islands and some of those objectives with health and wellbeing. So potentially I'd suggest there could be room for 5 members on that panel.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's acceptable. Would you like to make that a proposal, Councillor Williams?
Yes. I'll second that.
Can I have a seconder? Any more discussion? Carry on. Discussion.
No, sorry, I wanted to say something else, but after this, I thought we'd finished this one.
No. All those in favour of those 5 members of the Health and Wellbeing Board? Thank you. Right, have we done everything now? What about the lab? What about the lab?
That's the vice chair.
Sorry?
The vice chair.
Is it? Oh, it's the vice chair. It's the vice chair. Right. In that case, we move on to agenda item 16, which is the council calendar. Mr. Thomas, you want to say anything?
Chairman, only that there's a very slight amendment to that, which is Thursday the 2nd of February 2018, where it's listed for scrutiny and licensing meetings. It's actually Thursday the 1st of February.
So we can just amend that to the 1st of February 2018.
Is there any discussion on that? No discussion. In that case, will somebody propose that we ratify that?
Proposed, Chairman.
Councillor Dorrington. Second. Seconded by Councillor Francis. All those in favour? Against? Thank you. That concludes this evening's meeting.
There's one more to go.
Oh, with the supplements, sorry.
Chairman, could you just bear with us for 2 minutes while we get the phone call through?
Right, can you
that's
just...
what we're waiting on.
Sorry, I forgot the supplements, my mistake. Can you just hang on for 2 minutes while we get the phone calls through for the supplements?
Is there anybody there? This is Mark Hewitt, Caroline Phillips from Cornwall Fire and Rescue Service. If you can hear us okay.
Yes, we can hear you, thank you. Yeah. Right. Members, Mr. Dryden is going to introduce the report. Can I please ask you that we only use one red light microphone at a time, because it does interfere with the communications. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. If I can introduce the report, we do actually have, as you're all aware now on the telephone, both Mark Hewitt and also Caroline Phillips from Cornwall Council and Cornwall Fire and Rescue Service. So the purpose of this report is to review the collaborative arrangements between the Isles of Scilly and Cornwall Fire and Rescue Service, and it's really to extend and develop those current arrangements so that we can move forward and enter into a more formal 5-year agreement. You'll see from the report that an options report has been prepared by Cornwall Fire and Rescue Service. There are essentially 4 options, and you'll see that in assessing each option, the main objective is really to work in collaboration and partnership with Cornwall to actually ensure that we have an affordable model which actually improves the capacity, the resilience, and also the expertise of our fire service by working in partnership with Cornwall and making sure that it is actually operationally not only effective but also compliant with all the relevant legislation in terms of the various fire regulations and legislation applying to that area of service. I think it's also important as well to think about how we move forward in terms of making transformational changes, and that's also part of the government agenda in terms of the fire reforms, and to create a more cost-effective service, which obviously is still operationally effective, but also, as I say, moving forward so that we do improve the resilience and capacity. You'll see from those options that my recommendation is to go with option 2 in its entirety, but also elements of option 3. And my view is that they do meet those objectives well. It is affordable. It is the most cost-effective solutions. And I think that's very much probably the conclusions from the report made by Cornwall Fire and Rescue. What I would say is that obviously going with the combination of option 2 and elements of option 3, it does mean that we do need to appoint a responsible officer for the discharge of statutory obligations into the Fire and Rescue Service. So as part of that measure, of that package of options, what I'm also recommending is that the Senior Manager for Infrastructure and Planning is also appointed as the Chief Exec for the Isles of Scilly Fire and Rescue Authority. And that's on the caveat, of course, of members actually agreeing option 2 and elements of option 3 to actually give us the necessary support and expertise and, as I said before, resilience. Finally, what I would say is that whatever members agree tonight also has to be agreed by Cornwall Council, and because that's obviously very important, because obviously this will be a partnership arrangement, so it will be a collaborative arrangement for a 5-year period. And I've got Mark, as I said before, Mark Hewitt and Caroline Phillips on the telephone as well if members have any specific questions to put to them, as well as myself. Chairman, can I just elaborate on that? The reason for the option 3 was effectively a pick list, and there was nothing to stop us from actually combining some of those options. So effectively, option 1 is the most simplest option. Option 1 is actually part of option 2, but option 2 is obviously elaborated in terms of the operational and tactical support. Option 3 included a whole host of measures, including obviously sharing the Chief Fire Officer. And what I'm saying is I'm recommending that we take actually option 3 in combination with option 2. So they do actually work in sequence. Obviously the most transformational option is actually option 4, but that does create actually some political tension because of the issues potentially with the police and crime commissioners. So that would be politically unacceptable, certainly to Cornwall Council, and also that would be potentially a fairly expensive option as well. So the options report does actually make sense because option 3, as I say, is actually a pick list.
Is there any particular rush in making this decision? Just that the report itself was late to members, and as a new member, I feel quite uncomfortable in signing something that lasts for 5 years and is worth so much money with only 2 days to look at it, without a briefing on agreements across the board with Cornwall and how this would fit in with that.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I do think it is important to make a decision, for the very simple reason that the current arrangements that are in place will run out by the 30th of June. So therefore, it is imperative that we will put something in place to secure, first of all, the statutory roles of Chief Fire Officer, but also a model that can be discussed with our colleagues in Cornwall as to form part of the wider collaboration agreement.
Hey, sorry, can I come in? It's Mark Hewitt.
Yeah, yes, you can, Mark.
Yeah, Teo, thank you. Just in support of that, I think on the back of the member's question, and thank you for that, it would be fair to point out that we will undertake an annual review. So it's not signing up for the 5 years, but it actually builds in the ability that prior to year end, we will review it. And if there is any sort of political change or financial change, it does give us that option to change the document that is in front of you.
Thank you, Chairman. I was going to echo Councillor Marcus's reservations because it wasn't just this supplement report that we had to look at. We obviously had to try and read, mark, learn and inwardly digest, to show my Anglican background, the paperwork that came with this document. So it's quite a meaty lot of paperwork, and actually I must say I feel I would have preferred greater time to look at it. But in too close, on pages 12 and 13, could I ask, the detailed breakdown of costs, could I ask Mr Dryden if he can give any indication of the cost? It doesn't cover any of the travel costs for personnel from Cornwall Fire Rescue and Community Safety Service, and yet obviously that is it's very important that the personnel over here do have the support. So could you give us a ballpark figure of what that might be? And while I'm just speaking, just to finish and not interrupt again, the commissioning of a future peer review is recharged at true cost, which is fine. But on page 13, I do think actually monitoring this and the peer review would be very valuable.
Actually, Chairman, can I come back on a number of points? Obviously, one of the points was made by Mark Hewitt, and in fact, I think it's very clear in recommendation 2 that the partnership agreement will be subject to annual review, and of course, an agreement to any cost implications as well at the end of each year. Also, the point in terms of travel and subsistence, it's really difficult at the moment to actually analyse what that will be. But that's one of the reasons for actually having the annual review, so that we can actually still monitor and manage the situation. Because bearing in mind that one of the drivers really for the partnership agreement is also to make some cost savings actually within the service itself. So it's looking at transformational change within the service. Clearly there will be cost implications in terms of travel and subsistence, but that is something that I think we just need to kind of monitor and manage. And I'm confident that given the existing budget we have, that we can actually manage that process. And what I would say at the moment is that we have that cost currently with the arrangements in place with the existing partnership agreement. Whether or not those costs will increase, again, will be something I think we need to monitor and review. And also, the third point I was going to make, just to add in terms of the issue in terms of the timing, the current agreement does end at the end of June, and of course it's important that we, as a local authority, actually identify what we consider to be the most effective option, because that also has to be considered and agreed with Cornwall. And if you look at the timings of the meetings with Cornwall Council, as set out in my report, that is towards the middle and end of June. So the timings really are very, very important. So it is important that we make a decision at this meeting.
Sorry, yeah, I'm just a bit unclear. Some of the report mentions that we need to make savings this financial year and more further savings next financial year. It also goes on to state that the cost of this agreement is going to be more expensive than those savings. So it's not clear to me where those savings are going to actually be made. Are they going to be added on to next financial year or this year? I don't know whether that's me just misreading the report, or I'm just not clear about it, that's all.
I'm not sure if Mark Hewitt wants to say anything at this stage, but what I would say is that actually part of the partnership agreement and part of the mix of options we're looking for is actually look for transformational change. So what they're looking at is actually a review of the current service with a view to making those savings that we've identified for this financial year, which is £30,000, and then moving forward to the next financial year for £50,000. And the one thing I would say at the moment is that at the moment we just don't have the internal capacity or expertise to actually carry out some of that transformational change, including looking at a capital programme of works that we do need, which we haven't currently got. So there's a number of issues to actually move and modernise the fire and rescue service that currently we just haven't got the internal capacity to undertake.
So yeah, but going back, I did a bit of research. There was a capital programme outlined in 2013 that was agreed by members. And why are we not sticking to that? Why do we need a new one? What's wrong with that one we had?
Can I comment on that a little bit? The capital programme that was agreed in 2013 has since been superseded by a needs-driven situation where there are replacement of fire engines that is going to have to happen.
The replacement of fire engines was in that capital programme.
Yeah, but it's the cost of those has changed considerably.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I accept this as a member's decision, but it was just a one-off question for me. Have the local fire brigade had any consultation on this or not?
Yeah, Chairman, I've ensured that certainly the senior management team of the fire service has actually they're fully aware of this documentation. There's also been obviously ongoing dialogue as well between Cornwall Fire and Rescue Service and the Isles of Scilly Rescue Service, including a peer review which was undertaken at the back end of last year and the beginning of this year. So there has been quite a lot of partnership and collaboration working. Mark, I'm not sure if you want to add anything to that statement.
Yeah, I think just picking up with regard to the member's question around the savings, what we are articulating and reporting on in the report is savings that Cornwall Fire and Rescue Service would work with you in 1819, and that will be based on the back of considering different ways of working, partnership working with other services, emergency services and other services on the island, and taking an innovative approach very much along the lines that Cornwall has already achieved and demonstrated.
Are there any more comments? We have then a recommendation, or a series of recommendations, that we need to make a decision upon. The one that the Senior Manager for Introduction Planning is suggesting that recommendation 2 with elements of recommendation 3 are accepted by the Council. Do we have a proposer for that or not? Do we have a seconder for that?
I'll second that, Chairman, on the basis that we have to make a decision before the end of June.
We have a proposal for recommendation 2 with elements of recommendation 3 in it. Can I have all those in favour? All those against? Abstentions? We have 3 abstentions. Motion is carried for recommendation 2 with the elements of recommendation 3. Mr. Stokes wishes to... Sorry? There's 3 recommendations, sorry. My mistake, we need to go back and accept recommendation 1, 2 and 3 then in that. Is that correct? Right, my mistake. And Councillor Nellams, thank you, sorry, my mistake. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Right, same. Right, that we are at the end now. Yes, thank you. We close the meeting at 8:23, not 7:23. Thank you. Bye.